A formidable Viking raider, fresh from conquering coastal villages and territories, suddenly finds himself not just ruling over a foreign land, but founding an entire dynasty that would shape one of the world's greatest empires for centuries. This isn't fiction, this is the incredible true story of how a Norse warrior named Rurik became the father of Russia itself. Most people know Vikings as savage raiders who struck fear into medieval Europe. But what if I told you that one of these warriors didn't just conquer territory, he was actually invited to become king? And that his bloodline would rule Russia for over 700 years, producing legends like Ivan the Terrible and the Romanovs? If you're as fascinated by these hidden historical twists as I am, smash that like button to help this story reach more history lovers like yourself. Trust me, what you're about to discover will completely change how you see both Vikings and Russian history. To understand this shocking transformation, we need to travel back to the 9th century, a time when Eastern Europe was a patchwork of warring Slavic tribes, with no central authority and constant battle. The Slavic peoples, ancestors of modern Russians, Ukrainians, and Belarusians, were locked in endless cycles of revenge and warfare. Tribe fought tribe, brother fought brother, and chaos ruled the vast forests and rivers of what would become Russia. Roots flowing with silver, furs, amber, and slaves. Whoever controlled these waterways controlled immense wealth. The Vikings weren't just the horn-helmeted raiders of popular imagination. The Swedish Vikings, known as the Varangians, were master traders and explorers who had been pushing eastward for decades, following river systems deep into the Slavic heartlands. By the mid-800s, Varangian warriors had established trading posts and fortified settlements along the major rivers. They didn't just raid, they built a network that stretched from the Baltic Sea to Constantinople itself. Around 830 AD, somewhere in what is now Sweden, a Viking chieftain named Rurik was making his reputation as both warrior and leader. Historical sources are frustratingly sparse, but what we know paints a picture of a man who embodied everything the Vikings represented. Rurik likely cut his teeth on traditional Viking raids, striking monasteries in Ireland, battling Frankish forces, terrorizing the English coast. He commanded fierce loyalty from his warriors and had that crucial Viking combination of tactical brilliance and absolute ruthlessness. But Rurik was also part of a new generation of Viking leaders who understood that true power came not just from raiding, but from controlling territory and trade. While his contemporaries were still burning villages, Rurik was thinking like an empire builder. The chronicles tell us that by the 850s, Varangian bands including Rurik's were already operating extensively in Slavic territories, extracting tribute from local tribes and establishing fortified bases along key rivers. Here's where our story takes its most shocking turn. According to the Russian Primary Chronicle, our main historical source, something unprecedented happened around 862 AD. The warring Slavic tribes, exhausted by decades of internal conflict and struggling under the burden of paying tribute to various Varangian groups, made an extraordinary decision. Rather than continue fighting both each other and their Viking overlords, they would invite the Vikings to rule them directly. The Chronicle records their message to the Varangians: "Our land is great and rich, but there is no order in it. Come and reign as princes over us." Think about this for a moment. These weren't conquered peoples begging for mercy. These were proud tribes making a calculated political decision. They recognized that the Varangians possessed something they lacked: the ability to create and maintain order across vast territories. The invitation specifically went to three brothers, Rurik, Cineas, and Truva. Rurik was to rule from Novgorod, the most important trading center in the north. His brothers would govern other key territories. When Rurik arrived in Novgorod around 862, he wasn't coming as a conqueror, he was coming as an invited king. This completely changes our understanding of early Russian history. Novgorod was already a thriving commercial center, strategically positioned on the Volkhov River with access to both Baltic and interior trade routes. but it lacked strong central leadership to coordinate defense and maintain trade security. Rurik brought something revolutionary, a proven system of governance that combined Scandinavian military organization with respect for local customs. He didn't try to turn Slavs into Vikings, he created a hybrid system that worked. Under Rurik's rule, the region experienced unprecedented stability. Trade flourished, settlements grew, and the constant warfare that had plagued the Slavic tribes began to subside. This wasn't brutal conquest, it was state-building on a massive scale. But Rurik's ambitions extended far beyond Novgorod. Historical records suggest he spent his reign systematically bringing other Slavic tribes under his authority, through a combination of diplomacy, intermarriage, and strategic alliances. When Rurik died around 879, he had accomplished something remarkable. He had transformed himself from a Viking raider into the founder of what would become the Russian state. But the real test of his achievement came with succession. Rurik's heir, likely his kinsman Oleg, acting as regent for Rurik's young son Igor, didn't just maintain what Rurik had built. He expanded it dramatically, pushing south along the Dnieper River toward the ultimate prize, Constantinople. In 907, Oleg launched a massive assault on Constantinople itself, forcing the Byzantine emperor to pay tribute and grant favorable trading rights. A Viking dynasty that had begun with an invitation to rule Novgorod was now dictating terms to the most powerful empire in the world. This was the birth of Kievan Rus, the medieval state that would become Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus. And it all traced back to a Swedish Viking who had transformed himself from raider to king. Rurik's descendants ruled Russia for over 700 years. Every major Russian ruler from the medieval period through Ivan the Terrible claimed descent from this Swedish Viking. When the original Rurikid line finally ended in 1598, the new Romanov dynasty, which ruled until the Russian Revolution, also claimed connection to Rurik through marriage alliances. That invitation to bring order to a chaotic land ultimately led to the creation of the largest country on earth. The Viking who accepted that invitation became the ancestor of rulers who would expand Russian territory across 11 time zones. Most remarkably, Rurik's dynasty didn't just preserve Viking military traditions, it adopted and transformed Slavic culture, eventually converting to Orthodox Christianity and becoming the defenders of Byzantine traditions after Constantinople fell. This story completely overturns our assumptions about both Vikings and early Russian history. We usually think of Vikings as destructive raiders who came, conquered, and left ruins. But Rurik represents something entirely different, a Viking who became a genuine state builder. Similarly, we often imagine early medieval kingdoms forming through brutal conquest. But the foundation of Russia began with an invitation, a recognition that effective governance requires more than just military might. Rurik's story also reveals how sophisticated medieval political thinking could be. The Slavic tribes weren't primitive peoples overwhelmed by Viking superiority, they were pragmatic leaders who recognized talent and made a strategic decision to import expertise. The result was a unique fusion culture that combined Scandinavian organizational skills with Slavic traditions and Byzantine Christianity. This synthesis became the foundation of Russian civilization itself. So the next time someone tells you Vikings were just bloodthirsty raiders, remember Rurik, the Swedish warrior who was invited to become a king and whose descendants shaped world history for nearly a millennium. From a Viking longship on the Baltic Sea to the halls of the Kremlin, that's the incredible journey that began when brutal raiders learned to become brilliant rulers. What do you think about this incredible transformation? Does it change how you see Viking history or early Russian civilization? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I love hearing your perspectives on these hidden historical gems. If this story blew your mind like it did mine, smash that like button and subscribe for more shocking historical revelations. And hit that notification bell so you never miss when we uncover another incredible truth hiding in plain sight in history. Until next time, keep questioning what you think you know about the past, because the real stories are often far stranger than anything we could imagine.